Okay, you're ready to go.
All right, so we are recording. My name is Maggie Chow. I'm program manager at Langston Boulevard Alliance, leading People and Places projects. This is a recorded interview. Are you all okay with us recording it and then disseminating that recording to the archives of Arlington?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And again, like I said, I'm Maggie Chow. I'm Langston Boulevard Alliance's program manager. This is a People and Places project conducted by Langston Boulevard Alliance, sponsored partially by Arlington County. Today's date is May 19th.
19th.
May 19th. We're here at Manoukian Rugs on Langston Boulevard. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
You want to go?
I'm Dona Manoukian, and this is my son, Mikael Manoukian.
Okay, great. Well, let's jump into it, guys. Ladies first. Donna, I'll start with you. But of course, Michael, we'd like to hear from you as well. Can you give us your full name, where you grew up, and maybe a little bit about your family?
I'm Dona Manoukian. I grew up in Oklahoma. And you want to know about my family of origin?
If you'd like to share anything about those formative years and how you found your way to Arlington.
Well, I think I had unremarkable time of growing up in Oklahoma, and my parents were both born in Oklahoma. They were in the time when the state was being settled by white people, and both sets of my grandparents did come to the territory or the Cherokee Strip at that time. And I just went all through high school there and ended up going to the University of Oklahoma, where I was graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing in the first class that the university had for that particular program. Then I liked new things, so I joined John Kennedy's Kids, Peace Corps, and went off to what was then Malaya. And when I came back to this country, I decided to join a friend who had lived here in Washington, and so I came back to Washington. But we actually didn't go to Washington, but specifically, we came back to Arlington. And then I got a job as a public health nurse in Arlington County, and went on to do other jobs of nursing here and at the old Columbia Hospital for Women, and then went on to get a master's at Georgetown University. And after I got married, had 3 children, and joined my husband in the business. He was a civil engineer for the DC government and for Metro, but I worked in the rug store when the need arose, and so that's been the way it's been ever since.
Well, you said unremarkable. That all sounds pretty remarkable to me. That's quite a life.
Yeah.
It's an adventure.
It was not anything that I ever anticipated. I did not have a particular interest in commercial enterprises. I was much more interested in professional and academic enterprises. But as a matter of fact, this business is managed and run by people who all have degrees in other aspects of life, and I don't know that anyone anticipated ending up in this, including my husband, but he did. It was in the family, so he carried on.
Thank you for that. Michael, what about you? Full name, of course, and then where you grew up, and a little bit about your family.
Sure. My name is Mikael Manoukian. I'm the son of Dona and Paul. Paul was from the Manoukian side of the family, and so when they met, she referenced in the 60s, Peace Corps. When she came back from the Peace Corps from Malaya, it was 65, 66 that they met here. She was in Arlington, he was in D.C., so they were close enough, and then they got together. And then I was the second child, so my brother came first, and then me. I was, in fact, born at Columbia Hospital for Women in D.C., but I've always lived in Arlington. Then I grew up in Arlington. I went to Jamestown, Williamsburg, Yorktown. As a child, I would sometimes come help at the store. It was much more very kind of optional and sometimes something to do on the weekends because we were open on Saturdays. But I did stuff like photography and videography growing up in school and the Career Center and stuff like that. Went off to college, got a business degree, actually focused on theater and performance. I was an actor. And then I got into video production, did a fair amount of video production for the past many couple decades. When we jump forward to 2018, my dad was second generation of the family business. He was kind of aging out, and we had a transition at our location in DC, our one location, and that was the 96th year of the business. The lease was going away, and so we had to make some decisions about what we were going to do with the business. So, not to jump ahead, but that's when we got more involved because we had, at that point, the rest of the family was not very involved. He had been doing it quite a bit on his own and with his employees, and then we had to make some changes to figure out what was next.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, it sounds like you've already shared a little bit about our next line of questioning. It's about how you got started in the industry. Donna, you shared that you would just give some of your time when it was needed. Did you, this isn't on the list, but did you miss nursing when you switched over? And did you continue nursing?
Yes, I had been out of nursing for a while because after I got married, I had children. So I stayed at home to raise the children. And St. Mary's Armenian Church, like many churches, particularly ethnic churches, they have food festivals once or twice a year. So my husband asked if I would come into the store for 2 weeks while his aunt could go to the church and cook in preparation for this big festival. And those 2 weeks turned into 20 years.
Oh my.
And I ended up helping with the bookkeeping. I knew nothing about bookkeeping. The previous job I'd had was in labor and delivery at Columbia. And, but anyway, I did go and help out and ended up staying for quite a while.
Oh my. What about you, Michael? How did you guys, I mean, it sounds from childhood you were.
Yeah, I mean, I helped off and on when I was a kid because, like I said, we had Saturday hours and after school, well, not usually after school, but Saturdays sometimes I'd go, and then the summer I'd come in and help. In that time we were, like from 72 to 2007, about 35 years, we were in Adams Morgan on Columbia Road. So next to a restaurant now called the Grill from Ipanema. And so we were there, and people who come to us now as longtime customers often remember us from there. They're like, I used to work for State Department, lived in that area, and so I often run into people like that, and we talk about the old times of that old store. And then I went away to college, and I think my father, he was second generation, and for him, it was a little bit more important that he stay in the business. There was probably more family pressure for him to stay in the business, just historically. I think my parents intentionally tried to avoid that kind of pressure on the 3 kids, just because they wanted us to have a little more opportunity of choice in our life. And so like I said, for 2 decades, I was doing other things other than rugs. I always knew it was in the background, but I would help my dad a little bit, but not substantially. And then it, like I said, 2018 came about and some things changed, and it was either going to, we had 3 choices. We could either close the business, we could sell it off to someone else, or we could, liquidate it. So when when we got involved as a family, as opposed to just him leading it, we had a lot of discussions about that were drawn out and extensive, and trying to figure out what was next. And that took a transition like that takes a lot of thought and energy.
There's one thing I'd like to comment on, which I'm sure you all have observed also. Immigrants come to this country, and many of them will open a shop. They may open a shop or a business of something that they know, and carry on from the time when they were in their country of origin. But almost without exception, they all want their children to get a good education. So they wanted my husband to go on, and he did. He wasn't just following in the family tradition of business. He did go to the University of Maryland, where he was graduated from with a civil engineering degree. But he always kept his time and finger, so to speak, in the business. Of all of the family and the 5 men who immigrated, my father was the only son of one of these men. So it...
Your husband.
Excuse me, my husband, right. His father, yeah. Paul was the only son.
Of 5 brothers.
Of 5 brothers.
Oh, wow.
There were some girls, but there were no other sons. So it was sort of left to him to carry on, yeah.
Okay. We've already talked about this a little bit, but did you find that your education played a role in, when you transitioned into the rug business? Was it?
Well, maybe not so much for her, because that's not her inclination, but,
sure.
I did business studies in entrepreneurship, so it very much ties in, like what I learned in college.
Sure.
I mean, it ties into any business you run, but so it's like the structure of how to, organize a business, manage a business, sure. Optimize things, and make decisions that will advance a business. So yeah, absolutely.
You guys have already answered a lot of these questions, to be honest. Yeah.
Sorry, we can.
I don't make it redundant here.
You're making it easy on us.
Yeah, sure. All right, well, let's just jump into introducing the business itself. What is it known for?
We are the oldest Oriental rug store in the Washington, D.C. area. So we were started in 1922 by one of the 5 brothers. His name was Dona Manoukian. And he started a store. It was called the A&P Rug Company. Mm-hmm. It was on Washington Circle near Georgetown, near GW Hospital, is where it is now. And the name of the store came about because it was a reference to Atlantic and Pacific, which was an old grocery chain. And so he was probably an inventive immigrant thinking, how can I name it something kind of hip? And so he came up with that. Anyways, that was the first store by one of the brothers. The second brother, Sarkis, started another store, different name. And then the 3 other brothers, which included my grandfather, Moses, they started a store, the 3 of them together. And then it was in 1957 that they probably saw the end coming, what are we going to do later? And they combined forces and became the Manoukian Brothers, which was a store of 5 brothers. And they had, I think, 1 or 2 stores. And in the 40s, they actually had at least a store and also critically a rug washing plant. So, rug service is a big part of our business. So they had a separate plant. So for about 10 or 15 years, they had a separate cleaning plant near Tinleytown. And then in the 60s, we had a store at the intersection of Thomas Jefferson Place, 18th Street, a little triangular park. And that was a store that was in the 60s. And then we moved in the 70s to Columbia Road, which is where people kind of knew us. And then the brothers, my grandfather, Moses, passed on in probably late 90s, early 90s. And he was the last brother to pass away, and he was the youngest. And so then it fully went to my father, who had been doing it for many years anyways. And then I got involved, like I said, around 2018 with my mom very much. She'd been involved in like 2 cycles of 10 or 15 years. And then I got involved with her and my brother and sister 2018. And then I'd become more involved as it's kind of things have worked out. And now it's kind of more even keeled.
One of the things I would add is that he mentioned that the store had a retail location plus a cleaning location. Well, and cleaning rugs is very labor intensive. It takes strong people to handle a wet rug, particularly a rug of any size. It's very, very heavy. So the cleaning, and part of what goes into cleaning is after it's washed, it has to dry. And today's plants they're mechanized and they can lift the rugs into the drying room. In those days, though, the drying room for this cleaning plant was a grassy field.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Off of Wisconsin Avenue. And the location that Michael mentioned near Jefferson Place, really, it was 18th Street technically, but it did go by 1216 Connecticut Avenue because it was right at the point where Connecticut Avenue and 16th Street cross, just close, a little below DuPont Circle. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hope it doesn't rain.
There's actually a placard in D.C. near Tinleytown that has pictures of our family on it. A historical marker.
Yeah.
With saying so it says that they had a cleaning plant there, which is
D.C. turned some of their telephone boxes into
historic markers,
placing placards of historical markers.
Cool.
I don't recall right now. It's near some school.
Yeah, I mean, I have it posted on our Facebook.
Yeah, it's Upper Northwest. I'm not quite sure.
Cool. Well, fast forward to today. What does a typical day at Manoukian Rugs look like as a business?
You go ahead.
Well, we deal with correspondence, phone calls, people coming in, emails frequently asking about rug service, be it cleaning or repair, or we also sell pads, or else they're looking for a rug to buy. So someone will come in and they want to shop, and we'll physically flip through the piles, talk about styles and colors and prices and stuff like that. If they have a rug for cleaning, they'll bring it in, or sometimes they'll pick it up. We'll inspect it, we'll measure it for size, estimate it for price and for cleaning and repair, and then on occasion they want a pad at the end of the sale for comfort or traction.
Sure. So, what about your clients? It sounds like you've got folks that are coming from DC now into Arlington.
100%.
Following you.
Yeah, I mean, since we were in Adams Morgan for so long, we've always been in Northwest DC. There's a client base there of older, middle upper income, progressive people who like culture. It really caters to our kind of client, and frankly, when we moved to Arlington, we're as close to DC as without being in DC. And I like Arlington. It's run pretty well. it's organized, it's clean. So I get kind of get the best of both worlds. Proximity to DC, while at the same time not so busy as DC. So we have a lot of customers in the Northwest, Cleveland Park, Glover Park, Georgetown, that don't have any issue coming across the bridge.
We absolutely love the customers that we have and our customer base. I mean, we've had some of them for years, and just can't tell you how important they are to us. But I'd like to add something to the history of the time. I can think of 3 other Oriental rug dealers in Northwest DC in the 20s, 30s, 40s on up. It was something that the Armenians knew about their product. They knew about rugs when they, which they had dealt with in Turkey before the genocide. So they came here and brought what they knew. And there was space for all of these companies to operate and function and do well in Washington. Yeah. But Michael has done a great job of bringing the store into the current age of, and he can go into this a little more if you want to, but so much business is instigated and continued on by the internet. So, and he really understood the technology. And if he didn't understand it, he knew where to go, knows where to go to get the help or the answers. But I don't know what we would have done if he hadn't taken over that aspect, because it's critical.
You mentioned, the impetus, you mentioned the genocide. So the impetus in some ways for the history of the store is a historic genocide called the Armenian genocide that happened around the time of World War I. It was brought on by Turkey against Armenians and Greeks. And so around that time, my grandfather and his brothers fled what was called Antep. It's now called Gaziantep. It's in southern Turkey. It's about 100 miles south of Aleppo, Syria. So they were fortunate enough, one of the brothers had been in the Turkish military and was friendly with a German general, or I'd say German officer, and they got an exit visa or some kind of exit pass so they could escape. So they fled, and they eventually took I think a French rescue ship, and they made their way west. And so they made their way through France. I think they stopped in Marseille, but they made their way. They landed on Ellis Island. So they came through Ellis Island as refugees. And I believe, as it is now, you're usually sponsored. And so they were sponsored by the family, or each one was sponsored by a different church or a church, and probably a family. And so that was their kind of exit to come here. I think some of them landed in other places other than D.C., but they ended up regrouping in D.C., and then they made their home in D.C., together or apart. And then it was around 1922, obviously, the first one started his store, and the others started them after that. So it really is kind of small business born of like refugee status, figuring your way out and doing probably some unbelievable things to survive, I would imagine. And so, here we are 103 years later, doing a similar business just 100 years later.
This is the 3rd refugee story we've heard in the series too. Isn't that amazing? Arlington has all these.
Oh, for sure. It's not an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's par of the course.
Yeah.
Other businesses, rug businesses, were established about, I can't name names, but they've been established a long time. But Manoukian has been in continuous business. They didn't go in and out. They've always been in continuous business for sales and service. So I don't have the dates on when others began, but some of the other stores do go back a long time. But the ones some of them in particular, I know they're no longer in business. But this was in business and continuous.
Speaking of dates, I think that we might have said earlier, but just so we have it, when was Manoukian Brothers officially
1922 is when it was started. The first store by the first brother.
Speaking of the history of the business, what are some memorable moments? I'm sure there's dozens and dozens, but any you'd like to share?
Well, some of these, this depends upon oral history, and if my husband didn't tell me or someone else in the family didn't tell me, I wouldn't know some of the things I think were memorable. But I think there's a photo over here, and it shows the important documents of the United States.
The founding documents, Constitution, Bill of Rights.
That are in the archive, National Archives. And they borrowed a rug from Manoukian to display that.
In 1971.
And so that was something that they took great, they were gratified.
Yeah, what an honor.
They were honored for that. And they've had dealings with high levels of government.
In 1991, Speaker of the House Tom Foley had us purchase a rug for the Rayburn office building for a conference room. So but the rug was 20 by 40, so it was huge. 20 feet by 40 feet. It's a big rug.
Sure.
It takes like 4 people to lift it. It's so heavy, and so we placed that there. And then in the late 90s, I went with my dad to the Supreme Court because Justice Breyer at the time had a rug that he either bought from us or we repaired.
He purchased
a rug for his office. So we delivered a rug to the Supreme Court, Justice Breyer's office, which was cool.
Let me clarify about the House of Representatives. The Speaker of the House has a large reception room, and then there are offices off of that. And the rug was for that reception room. So it was a pretty large rug, and it was very heavy.
I bet.
Yeah. And there are other times of dealings with high officials and beautiful rugs.
I bet.
And then there's like times, I was going to say, a woman had a rug that came to her from her mother through she was a Holocaust survivor. The grandmother was, and so this was a rug that meant a lot to her, just because a lot of times it's a textile that comes through her family, and her grandmother was now deceased, and so it was a nice rug, but they don't always have to be special rug, particularly expensive. It could be just a textile that they have a connection to, and they really appreciate.
Oh, and you guys keep that memory alive for them.
Sure. Clean it. Yeah.
You talked about a little bit of kind of transitioning into the tech age with the business. You could talk more about that, but are there any changes that have been really noteworthy? I'm sure there's, again, dozens, but.
You mean with the company?
Or the business, yeah.
The business, I was going to say, the biggest things that happened since 2018 was, I call it 3 T's. We transported the business across the state lines, brought it to Virginia, which was nice. We transitioned from the leadership from my father to a group of us, and then more now towards me, and then we transformed it. And we transformed it, that's the biggest part. That was all the tech stuff. The back end administrative elements of the business had been in great decline as my dad aged. Use of QuickBooks, use of the internet, lack of use of the cloud. So I wasn't particularly doing that in 2018, even for my other business. But at least I grew up using that kind of stuff more so than my father, who was, a 70-year-old engineer. And so since that time, we've added in Google Workspace, Google Voice, using lots of spreadsheets, using WordPress for our website, all kinds of other tools, technical tools, so that we can either communicate better, we can track things better, we know what's going on the back end, and that's been critical. I mean, I've seen other businesses like ours that have gone away or are going away because they just they're not staying relevant, and if they can't keep up, they're not going to be able to keep up, because it's, even for us, I can see, I'm always watching benchmark companies, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
I think there's some loss of personal contact in all of this. Maybe it's something that I notice more than a younger person would notice. But it's very real to me that we don't always talk to the customers as much as we used to, because you can send us an email about what you need. If you want to look at the inventory, you can look at it online. That to me is difficult when you're dealing with a textile. Textiles to me are very tactile, and the colors matter. The colors can be different in a photograph than in natural daylight and to look at it. But someone can contact us by email, ask about the inventory, and Michael can tell them about how to search if they don't figure it out on their own. They can ask us about service. We can give them a good estimate. We can't give a firm estimate without actually seeing a rug for cleaning, and particularly for repairing. But the customer could get a good estimate. And afterwards, we can bill them, and they can pay online. So the possibility of minimal contact is there.
Yeah.
It's not our old way of doing business.
Yeah, and it caters much more to a younger crowd you'd be surprised. They're like, I want to do this all online and get it done. Whereas an older crowd, let's say 50, 55 plus, is they want to come in and chat you up. There's a real kind of dichotomy between, and you got to kind of cater to both, because if you just cater, my father used to cater greatly just to the older crowd because that was his kind of group, but it wasn't sustainable as a business model to do that. I mean, it was going to shrink, which is okay if that's what you want, but you really have to find out a younger audience too, who's willing to buy a rug, and the audience has changed a lot. Rugs used to be much more in fashion, but we have a very strong streak of mid-century modern going on and contemporaneous, and so that isn't always playing well to a floor covering that's made of fiber.
Yeah.
Could be a hard surface, very clean look, kind of the iPhone home, very very clean.
That's another thing. In the past, the rugs were generally wool, made of wool. On a cotton warp would be the best. But today, rugs are made, floor coverings is a better term than rug, because they're made of a variety of materials.
And not always as robust as wool. Wool is very hardy and resilient, and it's the reason it's used in 75% of floor coverings. But the industry is always inventing new things to put on the floor, and they can be synthetic fibers, and they can be a challenge to both clean and to last. They're oftentimes not as sustainable.
Yeah,
but
that's true. Wool is generally much more enduring than any of the other fibers or materials. Yeah. I mean, it can withstand a lot of wear.
Sure.
And you can clean it. Not always, depending what's on it, but you can clean it, you can scrub it. You cannot clean and scrub very vigorously some of these materials.
Yeah.
If they're stained, they're there for life.
That brings up a point. Most of our product is handmade wool rugs. So we do sell a few silk, but our focus is really rugs that are handmade of wool, and might have a cotton foundation or wool foundation. So as opposed to you go to a wall-to-wall rug store and you can get fibers made of poly or synthetic, but we don't. We're very focused on the wool.
Could you tell us a little bit about like where the rugs come from, or do you buy them antique or from someplace overseas, or?
We just wait till they become antique. That's what, they're sourced from India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Persia, a few other places.
Turkey makes rugs also.
Yeah, we source them through
and North Africa.
Long time relationships with importers in the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
So we'll go there and we'll, the same way someone comes and shops with us, we'll go to them and they'll have a warehouse that's 10 times as big as this store, and they'll have piles of rugs, and we'll sort through with them and pick out 20 or 50 or whatever it is, depending on the season, and then we'll might go to one or two places up there, and then we'll come back, and then we'll re-inventory them in our system, and we'll put them out on the floor and show them for sale. So
that's something else that's changed over time. It used to be that the importers brought them in, and there were places, which Michael mentioned, like New York, big location, New York and northern New Jersey, but really Manhattan. Then individual dealers realized that they could write off a business trip and make the travel themselves and go to some countries and pick out the rugs and ship them back. Now I think there's not so much of that. It's back to the importers. And so, but to import rugs and go through the hassle of customs is a real hassle. Most of the time you'd have to hire an importer, hire a company. Custom
broker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a different, we could do it, but it's a different level of business activity, of vertical integration between, you connect with a company and the producer in Afghanistan, Pakistan, they're going to get the bills of lading to get on the boat, ship it here, and then it goes through a customs exchange here, and then, so there's quite a bit of work there that requires a different level of skill and effort. And
we did that a few times, but like he said, it's not worth the bother.
Well, I mean, it could be, and now
it wasn't for us.
And now, I get on a weekly basis, I'm getting emails with pictures. The email will have 100 pictures from in WhatsApp or whatever of a producer in Afghanistan saying buy my rug. So it's the internet is even more conducive to that. You can even buy one and have it flown over. So the possibilities are quite. And
we get calls from people in Dubai. Now, Dubai does not produce rugs at all. It's just a place where there are a lot of rugs and warehouses, but
probably has a free trade zone, right?
Yeah.
So that, so
yeah.
Well, we've talked a little bit about changes and some of the challenges. What are some successes? Let's talk about some wins, some accomplishments. Let's brag on ourselves.
I don't know.
Well, we made it through COVID.
Yeah. That's huge.
No, I mean, I tell you, like 2018 and 19 were extremely difficult. I mean, even before COVID, they were difficult for us because of what was happening with the business, the state of the business. It's trying to move a business, and then to move a business that is kind of shrinking. And at that time, like I said earlier, we didn't know if we were going to close, sell it off, or do one other thing, but not like and trying to explore all those avenues at the same time. It's a little overwhelming. First off, I didn't have a grip on the business. I mean, none of us really did. And then so you had to get a grip on the business, what it is, what are its features and benefits, and what does it offer. And then some things we had to par back. If we didn't do it well, I was like, we're not going to do it. So so getting past that hump, and then having COVID come. In fact, COVID for us on the sales side was not so great, but on the service side, it was quite busy. Because we had a lot of customers who had pent up demand to do something, and they couldn't do vacations, but they were well off enough to do home renovations. And so the idea of service, cleaning a rug, kind of fell into fixing up my home. And so our customers were, doing additions, getting things painted. These are all things that can be done like safely. We were picking up rugs, or they were dropping off rugs. You could do that safely, drop it off at a distance, pick it up on the porch. And so us, like many other rug cleaners, we were very busy because of that. So on the sales side, like I said, it was kind of muted, but the cleaning side was certainly very busy, and so we did effectively well. And then we also benefited from the government programs where we asked for support and got it because it was justified, and we connected with, I should say, Arlington Economic Development. They were a huge help. They had some gift in kind grants, and my first reiteration of the website was due in part to my working with Alex Held at AED, and he got me paired with a tech company that they had partnered with down in Columbia, and so we worked for months on fixing the website, and that was a huge thing.
Well, the federal government support for us to be able to meet payroll, and then the Arlington County program for the same thing, they were tremendous helps. I think that those programs saved a lot of businesses, and we're better off for it, not just because of us, but they've saved many businesses, which I think all in all we're much better off for.
I also want to put a plug in for SCORE.
Yeah.
Have you ever worked for SCORE? But SCORE is a USBA, SBA program, Service Corps of Retired Executives. And once again, I connected with them through AED. And we had I have a mentor, his name is Richard Rose. Anyways, I connected with him because I was struggling with some decisions, like strategic decisions. And it turns out that Richard had a family furniture business. So very similar.
In Clarendon.
In Clarendon, he was at the old Whitlow's on Wilson. That was a property that he owns. Yeah. And that was one of his stores. And it was his parents, he told me later, his parents passed it on to him. And he's like a retiree now. But anyways, he's often coaching people, small business owners. And so it's nice to talk to him on occasion over time about issues of the business. And it's been some points have been very critical, and he's, his wisdom is, it's hard to measure.
Sure.
So
that fits perfectly with the next question. What lessons have you learned as a business owners?
Oh, just stay calm and smile.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
That's just life in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been around for a long time, and so times are good and times are bad, and
Sure.
you need to take the long view. Yeah.
I would say never insult the owner of a business you're trying to buy. We were in discussions with a business who was interested in acquiring some of our assets. Some of our intellectual property. And in that discussion, one of the owners of that business leveled a personal insult against my father. So I actually wrote it down.
Mm-hmm. Mine. And
I've kept it as a memory. It was like, we wouldn't have sold to him anyways, but.
Yeah. It's a lesson. What's some advice that you would pass on to someone who's starting their own small family business?
Don't read the ads and decide you want to buy a business. You have to know your product.
Okay.
You don't just launch into something because you have an idea that you can do it. If you don't know anything about it, you better learn about it before you launch into it.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I would say, get as much advice as you can. Use resources like your friends, families, or Arlington Economic Development or SCORE, wherever you can get advice, try to get it and prepare yourself. Because I find that oftentimes, we're in the rug business, selling hand-knotted rugs, doing service and repair of hand-knotted rugs, but much of my time is spent not doing rugs, but doing technical work, administrative technical work, to make the communication of the rug issue or whatever work. Talking to the customer, it has to do with communication skills and nothing to do with, where the rug was from, or so a lot of our work is actually not, selling a rug, but other things to support that idea.
Sure.
One of the things about about a rug business is that often rugs, as they're used, they need repair. And there are fewer and fewer people who are willing to learn this because it's all done by hand. And fewer yet who do really excel at it. So it's on the way towards a lost art. And we're fortunate that we still have someone who's been doing this for years and can do it.
We're going to switch away from the business a little bit and kind of focus more on the area. I know a lot of your history's in DC, but we're all community here. What was you can say this as residents. What was the Langston Boulevard neighborhood like when you guys first moved to the area?
When the business first moved, or
when we moved here, this area.
When you moved to
what was it like?
Yeah.
Drive your Model A.
Well,
Yeah.
no, like I said, I've been here for 60 years, so I've seen this space change, and to turn this from Bill's Garden Center into something that's lighter and brighter and a really inviting retail space has been challenging, but we've had a really good landlord, and that's another thing. It's very nice to have a landlord that you can work with and develop a good relationship. It works both ways.
Oh, we've heard that from a lot of
Yeah, I mean, a landlord doesn't want a problem renter.
Sure.
And we don't want the same in that personality, so that's really important. What else was the question?
Well, this block used to be Park Carpet, which is where ABW is now.
Okay.
Next to, and then in the middle between Park Carpet and Bill's Garden Center was Henrico Cleaners.
Right, he was here for
a
years.
Small cleaner, dry cleaner.
Okay.
And then during the pandemic, Bill's Garden Center closed down because the father of Bill passed away. And the cleaners had been empty for years, I think. And a vape store came in, and vape stores are kind of all the rage. And then ABW has been there for quite a few years. But when we were kids, the Bill's Hardware across the street, which is on Buchanan, and still a vibrant business, and that's run by the son of Bill, who was our landlord. That used to be Robinson's Five and Dime. And so we would come up there as kids, we'd ride our bikes up, kind of like Stand By Me, bike up and leave your bike unlocked, and you go inside, and they were selling like classic things like candy necklaces, candy rings, and cigarette bubble gum. And so we would go in there, and that was run by I don't know, it seemed like there was like a couple old ladies who were running that, and they would always they were always suspicious little kids because little kids had sticky fingers.
Sure.
And so we were, but we would have a good time. And then there used to be, that was a time when arcades were thing. So there was an arcade either here or down at Garden City. And so we'd come up and you'd have your $3 and quarters, whatever you saved up for the week, and you'd play Pac-Man or Galaxy or whatever it was, or pinball, and then you spend your money and you'd go home. But that was some memories I had of Langston Boulevard, kind of the 80s. So,
how have your customers changed over the years? Are you seeing some folks?
Have our customers changed?
Yeah, often when we talk to legacy businesses, they'll say, Bill and Susan used to come in the 90s and now their son brings his kid. You get this multi-generational.
We do some of that. Yes.
Sure, we have some grandchildren who've come. I mean, we have the Sniffins.
Mm-hmm.
We knew. So I know. I think the grandfather used to come, and the adult son, who's married now, comes, and he's got teenage kids or college kids, and so it's interesting to see. I never knew the grandfather. I know the middle one, and so it's, and then we have a customer who. She was a customer from the early 70s.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about your relationship with your customers and
Have they changed?
Yeah.
I don't.
Or if they've changed,
Possibly. I mean, I think probably if they've changed, it's because my dad's taste in rugs were maybe old-fashioned, and he didn't. When he was graduating out, he hadn't really updated his inventory very much, and it was clear that if you wanted to attract new buyers, we needed to get a little rugs with a different style. We couldn't just keep on selling classic old Persian rugs. Not that those were bad, but just they weren't matching the needs of what people wanted. So we tried to infuse our newer inventory purchases with items that were more fashionable.
Did you see a change in sales or clientele when that happened?
I think it ends up attracting people more my age. Sure. I mean, we still have inventory that the older clients like, but at the same time we're trying to bring in a newer, younger buyer who is open to buying a rug, still a hand-knotted, artisanal made product, but with a little different color scheme, a little more current fashion sense.
Yeah, the rug business or the floor covering business has ups and downs and fads, just like most everything else. And so the designs are very much decorator driven these days. People who make traditional rugs, some of them will continue to make rugs in their tradition, and other weavers will accept designs that somebody gives them. So you can have things custom made for your size requirement or for your colors. But it takes a while. It may take 6 months to a year, and perhaps even longer, depending. But it's just that the rug business and the floor covering business does have fads, and some things are popular and they go out of popularity. But as far as other changes, we have air conditioning. But when this rug store started, there was not air conditioning. It wasn't common in D.C. and Virginia. And of course, a lot more surface was not covered by roads and hard surfaces. But in those days, the traditional Southern women with a nice house would take up the rugs, take down their heavy drapes, and cover the furniture in white drapery and not put anything on the floor probably, and put very light curtains up instead of drapes.
For the summer. For the summer.
For the summer.
Right, they would cycle
and
their
so
interiors.
We would pick up the rugs, clean them, and store them, and take them back when summer was over. There was some women in customers that I recall in Alexandria in particular. And one of them told me an interesting story about her ancestor who had, through a maneuver, actually led to saving the Burke and Herbert Bank, because Burke and Herbert was established before the Civil War, and they saved their assets. Her ancestor had a hand in helping to save the assets of that bank. So you find these interesting stories about people and their lives.
Well, the next section we're going to talk about is just general history, 100 years in business. You guys have seen a lot of history. And just if you want to reflect or share how it's affected your business, how it's affected these parts of history, as just what you've observed. So pretty open-ended here, right? Lived experience.
Let's start with, you're one of the few businesses, and this is one we've been trying to get to, is you're one of the few businesses that's been around since desegregation. Now, I know Washington was a little bit different, but how did business change then, or has it changed? I think it was, we're trying to find some of the histories of desegregation, like once the tech boom happened, like all the historical things, or 9/11 is another one that's come up. So any of the historical things you can think of that you remember affecting the business or impacting the business, love to have you share.
So we'll start with desegregation. Did you, in DC, did that affect your business at all? Did it?
Well, it would affect, not necessarily education, segregation, excuse me, but it would economically, because it was still considered something of a very nice product that was expensive. So it required a certain desire plus economic level in order to purchase them and maintain them. But I don't have any other information about that. No stories passed down. I do know that when Martin Luther King was assassinated, my husband and I had been to a little restaurant tucked away on N Street, and I cannot remember the name of it. It could come the Iron Gate Inn.
Oh.
Yeah, we were there, and we walked out on the street, and this rioting was going on, and there was all this stuff in the air that had been shot off from the police. And we ran into a guy, actually, it was, he was a photographer. He happened to be Armenian. He was a photographer for the Washington Post, and he said, Malchayan, I think that's his name. He said, Paul, your store window has been broken. And it was at 1216 Connecticut Avenue at that time. And so we went over there, and I think they had a piece of 4x8 or some size of plywood in the basement, and he put it up. And so that was kind of a trying time, and you never knew when the riots were going to stop. And then another time, there was some unrest when the store was on Columbia Road, and rioters were in the streets 2 nights or 3 nights consecutively. And we did have defense for the store. It was a baseball bat. That's all. We're not gun-toting people. I don't think we'll ever have a gun.
And we lost a window there, though. They broke one of the showroom windows, right? Did they not break a showroom? Did they break a window or no?
We did have some broken windows, but It's interesting because the neighbors around there really cherish a business. There are a lot of restaurants and fooderies.
That's Adams, Morgan.
But they liked having a business there that was providing a product or a service. And the neighbors came and stood in front of the window, in front of the business, to help protect it. But it was still kind of scary because it was dark and rioters were running up and down the street. So those are two things I remember.
See, those are great
Those
stories.
are significant, yeah.
I was going to say, like, since I wasn't so involved during some of the times you mentioned, like historical markers, I often just reflect on the fact that, you know, in the 6 or 7 years I've been working intensely on the store, we've had many difficult times even in that period, whether it be COVID or whatever. I think back about a business that's been around for 100 years. You know, you have to imagine that your little myopic 5 years or 7 years is so small in the comparison of 100 years. And to think back on events of the past, you know, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, 3 pandemics. I mean, COVID was just one of 3 in the past. So, you know, it's got to be impressive that the family of 5 brothers somehow managed to get through all those others. Not to mention transitions and passages of people and death and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a whole lineage of stuff we don't know about, but did exist, and it was never necessarily easy. And so that's a pretty remarkable testament to any business that it can.
I would say, contrary to a lot of statements that are repeated, the customer is always right. The customer is not always right. There are details of a rug or how to care for it or what's happened to it or why, or various and sundry questions. And we've been doing this for a long time, and a lot of that knowledge is passed down. So we do our very best to provide accurate service, but customers are not always right.
That one's going on the reel.
I can tell.
She even ended that with a smile. That was
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Well, you guys talked about getting through COVID a little bit. Do you have any lessons learned from COVID? That was very recent.
One thing I was going to share is that during COVID, we had the opportunity to do something kind of fun. I do video production of arts and culture. So that's my original business before I came into here, and I still do that some. So I have 2 other partners in that, or they have their own company, but we joined forces, and we did a program called Rug Shop Concerts. And so we were on Columbia Pike for about 5 years before we moved here. And during COVID, we did a concert series, and it was basically like a little Austin City Limits in the rug store. So we did a 4-camera, 4K shoots where we streamed bands live. The bands were local professional bands who couldn't tour because of COVID. So bands like Bobby Thompson, David Klein, Memphis Gold. We streamed them, and we did for a free concert series, and it was a really nice event, and the community liked it.
With her, because I think she was bemoaning the fact that they couldn't perform.
Yeah. All the performers were stuck. They were just, they couldn't do anything.
I bet.
So the streaming thing was the only option, you know, whatever.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about some of the historical changes. I think we just want to end on why would you say long-lasting businesses like yours are important to the communities like Langston Boulevard?
Oh. Well, I think a community, like me personally, I live here and I've lived here for so long, and I was thinking, if I move, I'd have to find all of my sources and resources again. And I thought about this the other day. I know where to get this. I know where to get this. I know how to take care of this issue or whatever. Familiarity is just really important to us. If everything is changing and turning over every few years, everything around us, it would be quite disconcerting.
I have a slightly different, not different take, but a different response in that for us on Langston Boulevard, this is a benefit I've found having been here now and not realizing before I came, but the benefit of us being here on Langston Boulevard is it's almost like a deconstructed home interior shopping mall. When I think about the boulevard, Cherrydale to 66, there are in fact 3 appliance stores, 2 paint stores, a lighting company, an upholstery store, and some other home goods.
And the interior design.
And interior designs, right, and us, whatever. So, and there's a Dominion carpet across the street. So there's in fact, quite a few home interior spaces here that is, on this strip that is conducive to our activity and not in competition with. So I feel very fortunate that and they're independent stores. I mean, ABW is a little bit of a multi-space outlet, but for the most part, I think they're kind of one-offs.
And there's another appliance store down that way,
So.
Brand Scharf.
Yeah.
Let me ask that question a little bit differently. Why is it important that when we talk about a legacy business, a business that's been around 30 plus years, why is it important we keep those around? Why is it important that a company like yours that has 100 years experience, why should that store stay around? Why is that important to people?
Well, I think it's authentic to the society, to the neighborhood. I mean, we happen to live here, not that you couldn't live in another neighborhood and also have your business here as an authentic legacy business. But I'm from Arlington, essentially born here, but just grew up here all my life. I know the area and know the people. It's fun to connect with the people, the customers, who, even if I don't know them, might kind of know what their background, where they come from.
Yeah, it is fun. A customer came in the other day, and we got to talking, and she realized that her son had gone to one of the elementary schools, and my daughter, his sister, taught in Arlington County for several years. So anyway, that kind of connection is kind of fun to uncover. I think, though, that a business that's been around for a while is willing to, again, as I mentioned earlier, willing to take a long view if times are tough. And just continue to work through them. It always helps, though, if you have support from your local government. And again, mentioning that Arlington County is very seems to be very quite pro-business in offering support and encouragement. Yeah. And organizations like this, like yours, Langston Boulevard, that's also encouraging.
Well, we're always happy to support. And we don't have any more official questions on our docket, but if there's anything else you guys wanted to share or impart or be included, now's the time.
You have been, I would think, pretty thorough in in trying to get to create and paint a good picture, a complete picture of it. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for giving us so much of your time.
Thank you.